In 2023, something unexpected happened in Lagos, Nigeria. A street vendor selling phone accessories started refusing cash payments. He only accepted digital transactions, QR codes, mobile money, instant transfers. When asked why, he smiled and said, "I learned this from the Vietnamese." Across Africa, from Accra to Nairobi, traders are abandoning old methods. They're studying a new playbook, and it's coming from a country 8,000 miles away. For decades, African street markets operated the same way. Cash-only transactions, handwritten receipts, no inventory tracking. Business was personal, informal, and deeply rooted in tradition. Meanwhile, Vietnam was quietly building something different. After decades of war and poverty, Vietnamese traders transformed their economy through discipline, technology, and relentless adaptation. By 2020, Vietnam had become Southeast Asia's rising tiger. Street vendors in Hanoi used smartphones for everything: payments, inventory, customer data. Small shops were networked, efficient, modern, and African entrepreneurs were watching. It started with a single TikTok video. A Nigerian businessman named Chukwuma visited Ho Chi Minh City in 2022. He filmed a street vendor selling fruit with a digital scale, QR payment system, and customer loyalty app, all run from a single smartphone. The vendor made more in one morning than most African traders made in a week. Chukwuma posted the video with one caption: "We've been doing business wrong." Within 48 hours, the video had 3 million views. Comments flooded in from Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, Tanzania. "How is she doing this? We need this in Africa. Why didn't anyone teach us this?" Something clicked. The transformation began quietly. In Lagos, a WhatsApp group called Vietnam Business Lessons was created. Within 3 months, it had 40,000 members. Traders shared videos of Vietnamese markets, payment systems, supply chain strategies. They studied how Vietnamese vendors negotiated with suppliers, how they used data to predict customer behavior, how they operated with razor-thin margins but massive volume. But copying these methods wasn't easy. The first challenge was trust. In many African markets, going cashless meant losing customers who didn't trust digital systems. Older buyers refused. They wanted to see money change hands. Traders who switched too fast lost business overnight. Then came the infrastructure problem. Unreliable internet, expensive data plans, power outages that lasted hours. Vietnamese systems worked because their infrastructure supported them. In Africa, the foundation was shaky. Many gave up, but others adapted. They didn't copy Vietnam exactly, they remixed it. A trader in Accra started using offline payment apps that synced when internet returned. A shopkeeper in Nairobi combined digital payments with traditional cash, giving customers choices. A market collective in Kampala pooled money to buy portable Wi-Fi routers and solar chargers. Slowly, the strategies began working. In March 2024, something remarkable happened in Kigali, Rwanda. A government official visited a local market and noticed something strange. Every single vendor had a smartphone mounted on their stall. QR codes were printed on banners. Digital receipts were the default. He asked one vendor, a woman selling vegetables, where she learned this. She pulled out her phone and showed him a saved YouTube playlist, Vietnamese Street Vendor Masterclass. The official was stunned. He contacted the Ministry of Trade. Within weeks, Rwanda launched a pilot program, Vietnam-Africa Trade Exchange. They invited Vietnamese business consultants to train 5,000 Rwandan vendors. The results were extraordinary. Vendors who completed the training increased revenue by an average of 34% within 6 months. Transaction times dropped by half. Customer complaints about incorrect change disappeared. Word spread across Africa like wildfire. By late 2024, the movement had reached 12 African countries. Ghana's trade ministry signed a partnership with Vietnam's Chamber of Commerce. Kenya launched digital hawker training programs in Nairobi and Mombasa. South African township markets started hosting Vietnam Strategy Weeks. Even the African Union took notice. In a speech in Addis Ababa, the AU Commissioner for Trade praised the grassroots adoption of Vietnamese methods. This is not a top-down policy, she said. This is African ingenuity meeting Asian efficiency. This is the future of Pan-African commerce. International media began covering the phenomenon. Bloomberg ran a feature, How Vietnamese Vendors Are Changing African Markets. The BBC interviewed traders in multiple countries. CNN called it the most unexpected South-South technology transfer of the decade. Yeah, Vietnamese business owners were surprised too. Some traveled to Africa to see the impact firsthand. They found their methods being taught in workshops, referenced in training manuals, celebrated in market speeches. One Vietnamese entrepreneur told a reporter, "We learn these strategies from survival. It's humbling to see others find value in what we built from struggle." The numbers tell the story. In 2023, less than 15% of street vendors in major African cities used any digital payment system. By mid-2025, that number jumped to 48% in cities like Lagos, Nairobi, and Accra. Transaction efficiency improved dramatically. Markets that adopted Vietnamese inventory tracking reduced waste by up to 30%. Vendors using mobile-based customer relationship tools reported 25% higher repeat business. Even small changes made massive differences. Simple practices like daily revenue tracking, supplier comparison shopping, and time blocking for restocking, strategies common in Vietnamese markets, boosted profitability for African traders. The World Bank published a report in early 2025 analyzing the trend. The conclusion: informal sector modernization in Africa is accelerating faster than predicted, driven largely by peer-to-peer learning from Asian markets. Or financial inclusion rose. Millions of African vendors, previously invisible to formal banking systems, were now creating digital transaction histories. This opened doors to microloans, credit, and investment opportunities. The true turning point came in September 2025. At the Pan-African Trade Summit in Accra, something unprecedented happened. A panel discussion titled Future of African Commerce featured 5 speakers. 3 were African entrepreneurs, 2 were Vietnamese business consultants. The moderator asked, what does Africa need to compete globally? One of the African speakers, a market leader from Lagos, stood up. "We don't need foreign aid," she said. "We don't need charity. We need what Vietnam had, discipline, strategy, and the courage to modernize while staying rooted in our identity." The room erupted in applause. She continued, "Vietnam showed us that being a developing nation doesn't mean being stuck in the past. You can honor your culture and still embrace efficiency. You can run a street stall with the precision of a corporation." The Vietnamese consultants nodded. One of them added, "You're not copying us. You're adapting our lessons to your reality. That's even more impressive." That moment shifted the narrative. This wasn't about Africa imitating Vietnam. It was about mutual respect between nations building their own paths to prosperity. This story isn't just about business strategies, it's about something deeper. For too long, developing nations were told to learn from the West. Look to America, study Europe, copy their models. But the Vietnamese-African connection proved something different. Sometimes the best lessons come from those who've walked a similar path. Vietnam rebuilt itself without abandoning its identity. African traders are doing the same. They're taking inspiration, not instructions. They're adapting, not surrendering. This is what real globalization looks like. Not one-size-fits-all solutions from distant boardrooms, but entrepreneurs across continents learning from each other's struggles, innovations, and victories. The Vietnamese vendors who survived war and poverty built systems that worked. African traders facing their own challenges are proving those systems can transcend borders. This is the power of shared resilience. This is South-South cooperation in action. And it's rewriting the future of global commerce. From the streets of Hanoi to the markets of Lagos, a new chapter is being written. It's not being written by governments or corporations. It's being written by everyday people with smartphones, determination, and a refusal to be left behind. The world is watching, and what they're seeing is undeniable. When nations learn from each other's strength, everyone rises. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more global stories that show how our world is truly connected.